Hey, Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, leaders of Brady Industries answer to lawmakers in Frankfort. A Pulaski County business owner tries to turn a hateful voicemail into a lesson. And I go one-on-one with a leader in the State House. All that and more is next on Hey, Kentucky. Welcome to Hey, Kentucky. Former gubernatorial candidate and state auditor Adam Edlin, my co-host tonight. And it's getting tricky up there in Frankfort.
It is, and I'm sort of scrolling through what we're going to cover. I wouldn't call this the good news session of Hey, Kentucky.
No, it's not. We'll get to that later.
Right.
We'll get to that later. We'll have some fun. But first, leaders of Brady Industries are trying to assure state leaders that the project is still on track for the aluminum plant in Boyd County that has been in the works for several years. But the CEO testified in Frankfort today that Brady only has $65 million on hand for the $1 billion project. Legislators say the company needs to have that total by the end of this year, but Brady says they need $500 million and will then be able to cash in on commitments from some other investors, including that $200 million from a Russian oligarch. Today, Brady leaders face questions about the removal of former CEO Craig Bouchard and the state's $15 million investment in the project.
So as it relates to a Plan B, in the event that you are not successful in raising that $500 million by the end of this year, will the Commonwealth, via Commonwealth C, be in a position to recover the investment that we have made?
You know, Mr. Chairman, we try to stay away from the hypotheticals. We are focused, laser focused every day we wake up to make sure this facility gets built. That's our focus. We don't think about a Plan B.
Now, Craig Bouchard posted this message on Facebook last week, trying to ease concerns about the project and assuring the community that, as Brady's largest shareholder, he's committed to creating those 650 jobs at the world's lowest cost aluminum mill. Current leaders say he was replaced because they wanted more progress in a shorter time. And Adam, if they want progress in a short time, that's all they got. I mean, they got 10 months to raise $500 million.
What's $50 million a month?
Yeah.
Good grief. You know, nothing about this really instills confidence in the overall project. And I really think now is the time for our leaders in Frankfort and northeastern Kentucky to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And you know, deals like this where there's drama tend to repel capital rather than attract it. And I think we've got to really work hard and fight for those folks up there. I mean, they're the toughest people that we've got anywhere in Kentucky. But Mary Jo, they've dealt with the closure of AK Steel. They're dealing with the announced closure of a hospital and 1,000 jobs. And now this. You know, tough times don't last, but tough people do. But we've got to do more for those good folks up there because they deserve not to be abandoned just because the economy has shifted.
And I don't think that the leaders of Brady did anything to instill confidence in lawmakers or
well, and
people
relying
today.
on a financing scheme that included, you know, a couple $100 million from Russian oligarchs should have been a red flag. But people need to not forget that the taxpayers of this state have $15 million in this deal, and knowing how we can claw that back in the event that this doesn't materialize is really important.
And they wouldn't answer that today. They didn't want to deal in hypotheticals. All right. Elsewhere in Frankfort, now that Governor Beshear has had a chance to present his 2-year budget plan, Republican leaders have a chance to give it their makeover. Beshear is hoping to raise more than $147 million in new tax revenue by targeting tobacco and vaping products, legalizing sports betting, and limited liability entities. Republicans are calling these ideas unrealistic, although Beshear says he has bipartisan support and the tobacco tax is cleared a committee today. The governor also wants to add social workers and grant raises to teachers, but he's faced criticism for the lack of funding for school security. Committees are meeting this week to craft their own version of the budget that will likely look a lot different than the one of our Democratic governor. And Adam, there was a big move toward the vaping tax today.
That's right, which is good news.
That's likely going to happen.
But it's not good news that the gaming bill is stalled. And a lot of these assumed new revenue measures are the foundation on which Governor Beshear built his budget. And I don't know that it's going to be a makeover, because I don't think the chances are very good that the final budget will look anything like what the governor proposed, which is a shame because there are a lot of good things in there. But it is a process. I would encourage the governor to more directly engage with rank and file legislators to fight for his budget priority, because it's not enough just to deal with a couple of people at the top. You really do have to roll up your sleeves and engage directly to fight for the priorities that you include in your budget, and that's what good governors do.
And listen, I have David Meade coming up. He's going to tell you he hasn't even heard from Governor Beshear yet. So
that's a problem.
Yeah. All right. Now an update on Kentucky's ailing pension system. A new bill aims to shift the burden of how much public employers pay toward the pension fund. Right now, all of them pay the same flat rate, but the new model would charge the employers based on their proportionate share of the fund's liability. That unfunded liability currently stands at over $14 billion. Meanwhile, another bill would move 45 state lawmakers who have taken office since 2014 out of their solidly funded pension plan into the state workers' plan at Kentucky Retirement Systems that is only 13% funded. And Adam, this has got to be in this budget talks. I mean, we've got to figure this out. What do you like the shifting the onus on, percentage-wise,
Right.
how much is owed versus how much you pay in?
This is a bipartisan group. This isn't just a Democrat or Republican. You've got a collection of legislators who've come together to make this proposal. And I've not gotten down in the details enough to tell you whether I like it, but it is certainly positive momentum that we have serious, thoughtful legislators from both sides of the aisle working to try to solve this. But on the legislative pension, I've never been a believer that you ought to be able to get a full-time pension for part-time work. And so I'm really pleased to see a proposal that would put the legislators into the standard state employees system, because what's good for the goose ought to be good for the gander.
Yes, yeah. And a lot of those employees, in fact, most of them are all full-time.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
All right. In other news, a Somerset photographer is gaining support on social media after she said someone left a voicemail about a gay couple featured on an ad for her business. The owner of Wandering Elm Photography says she placed this ad in the local Money Saver publication, which includes a picture of a lesbian couple. Lacey Hilliard says she received this message on Saturday condemning the ad.
I really hope that this is a mistake, but the top left corner, that looks to be a homosexual couple embracing each other. If you think this is going to fly in Somerset, you're wrong.
Hilliard says after talking to the couple at the center of the woman's voicemail, she decided to share the message publicly, hoping people would open their minds and hearts to the issue.
I wanted to make sure that my ad was inclusive and that it showed that, I include and I welcome all people into my studio, regardless of, race, color, sexual orientation, any of that.
Hilliard says 17,000 ads were mailed out and she only received one complaint. So Adam, I think that goes to show you that it will fly in Somerset.
Yeah, and it will fly everywhere. Love is love, and everybody has a right to it. And the fact that she got such a terrific response to a isolated negative comment, I think shows how far people have come.
Yes.
That would have been a different kind of thing maybe even 5 or 10 years ago. And the fact that she's gotten so much support for this and only one bad response, I think is a good mark in the favor of people in Pulaski County and all of Kentucky.
Yeah, I think that's the real story here.
Yeah, I do too.
There's a big outpouring of support to just one negative comment. All right, up next on Hey Kentucky, I'll sit down with one of the leaders in our state house. Speaker Pro Tem David Meade talks about topics including welfare reform and medical marijuana. Stay with us.